Well, welcome back to the webinar from Small Business Center. My name is Rayhan Abdul Mughni. I am the director of Small Business Center. And today our webinar is the essential of search engine optimization. So our agenda is tell you why search engine optimization marketing or rather search engine marketing is important, and in particular what we're going to talk about today is mostly Google, and I will tell you why in particular Google is important. I'm going to talk very briefly about how Google works and the important SEO elements in Google. If you are able to optimize your website for Google, the chances are the website will also be optimized for other major search engines, including Bing from Microsoft and Yahoo. There are some differences between all of the search engines, but most of the time an optimization for one search engine means that you are also optimized for other search engines, but it is not always the case. We are going to go over the basics of how to optimize your websites. In particular, we are going to talk about the keyword research, keyword placement, and link building. And very briefly, I'm going to talk about the basics, or beyond the basics, some of the advanced things that you can do. However, just to set your expectations properly, this is a very beginner's introduction. If you know about search engine optimization, if you've done it before, this is probably not for you. If you don't know anything about search engine optimization, if you're just starting out, then this is probably the right webinar for you. So while I'm going to touch in the very end a little bit on some advanced strategies, it's probably going to be about 15 or 20 seconds that I'm going to very briefly mention about it, but I'm not going to go very deep into that. I may do that in a future webinar if all of you are interested, and if you are interested, let me know through your question that you are interested, and we will try and put together an advanced SEO strategy webinar as well. So why is search engine optimization important? 57% of internet users search the web every day, at least once a day. 57% is a fairly big number. As a matter of fact, it is so big that over 4 billion searches are done every day. 4 billion, that's with a B. I think the actual number is somewhere around 4.6 billion search queries are done every single day. That amounts to about close to 92 billion searches a month. So if you are a business and you are not, if your website is not optimized for search engines, then you're probably missing out on some of the businesses. Of this over 4 billion search queries every day, Google takes the lion's share. Depending on what stat you look at and whose research you look at the minimum, this is the lowest figure that I have seen, 66% of searches are done on Google in the US. This figure is specifically for the US. 66% of the searches are done on Google. And if you look at a global stat, then actually the number is slightly above 80% of searches globally, worldwide, is done on Google. Compared that to your nearest or the nearest competitor, Microsoft Bing, slightly above 15% of them of searches are done on Microsoft, and slightly below 14% are done on Yahoo. Now Microsoft and Yahoo have combined their search engine strategies together, so essentially if you look at their competitor of Google, instead of looking at separately for both Microsoft and Yahoo, they're essentially the same. So you're looking at about close to 28-29% of market share goes to them. What this table does not show you are searches that are done outside of the traditional search engines. So things like Facebook and Twitter and YouTube, searches that are done on social media sites, for example, are not included in this figure. If you include that in the table, then the second largest search engine is not Microsoft, but YouTube. And the reason I mention that is YouTube as a search engine is becoming important, and therefore you should start looking at that as well. As is Facebook and Twitter. Twitter is one of the fastest growing search engines if you look at it from a search engine perspective. So you need to look at other other areas other than simply traditional search engines for search marketing. And of course, if you are building your business on social media, it will have an impact, a positive impact on your search engine ranking on Google and Microsoft. If you are not building your business on social media, it will have a not so positive impact on your search engine on results as well. So as I was saying earlier, Google does have a lion's share of search queries as far as search engines are concerned, and on a daily basis, just in the US, there are a bit over 3 billion searches are done on Google alone. I think the figure is somewhere close to 3.2 billion searches a day. But when you're looking at your marketing strategy, keep in mind that search engine marketing is simply one of the channels. You should look at your entire marketing mix. I just mentioned a little bit about social media, but online marketing is also only a small part, perhaps not a small part, but only a small part of your overall marketing plan. So don't ignore other channels just for one channel, unless you know all of your customers or a majority of your customers are in one channel. You should not be ignoring other channels and concentrate everything on one channel. Having said that, when you are doing your marketing, you also want to make sure that your marketing efforts are paying off. And the only way to make sure about that is to analyze and monitor and measure the results that you're getting back from all of your marketing channels, not just online. And in a couple of weeks, we are going to be doing a webinar on Google Analytics. So if you are interested in how to figure out how to measure your marketing effort, make sure that you register for the Google Analytics workshop, which I believe is on June 7th. Right. So how does search engine works? This is a very, very simplified version of search engine. There's a lot more to it than this, but essentially this is what happens. A search engine like Google or Bing or Yahoo will come to your website, and it will index all of the content that is on your website in their computer, in their databases. So it will know exactly what is on your website. Now, when somebody comes to the search engine, let's say somebody goes on Google and they type something in, what Google is going to do is that it will match what the user has typed in to what is available on your on your website. And if there is a match, and if it is the best match, then it will show your website as a result to the user. If the match is not the best match, then obviously your website will not show up to the user. So what are the best matches? When you are looking at things in optimization, you want to make sure that the content on your website is similar to what the user is likely to type in. I had a customer who sold things like toasters and juicers and blenders and microwave. And in that industry, in the manufacturing and a wholesaler industry of those kind of items, they are referred to as kitchen electronics. That's the jargon that they use, kitchen electronics. But when somebody is looking to buy those items, they don't go into Google and type in kitchen electronics, they type in kitchen appliances. So when somebody went to Google and typed in kitchen appliances, my client's website would never show up because kitchen appliances wasn't in the content of the website for the client. So when you are developing your website, get into the head of your customer and not use words that are jargon in your industry and everybody in your industry understand it and perhaps used it every day, but your customer have no idea what those words are. So you always want to use the words in your website that your customer is likely to use, that your customer is going to be familiar with. So looking at Google, talking about jargons, for example, when you go talk to search engine optimization consultants, they will throw their own jargons at you, right? I mean, it's amazing that they tell you not to use jargons and they will use the jargon themselves. And one of the jargons you will hear them talk about is a SERP, Google SERP, SERP. What SERP stands for essentially is Search Engine Results Page. So when you type something in Google, a results page comes back, and this is what a results page looks like. So when somebody tells you that they want to look at your Google SERP or your Bing SERP, what they're referring to is what does the results page looks like when somebody types in and you should show up on their thing. There are two distinct types of information you will see on Google. On the right hand side and on the top, you will see listings that are paid listings. So for example, Honda Canada has paid to appear on this area, or BC Honda, British Columbia Honda, they have paid to appear in this area. This area over here, it's organic listing. In essence, nobody has paid to appear in this area. Google is showing these results because these are the best results matching the query or the search. And the search I did was hybrid cars. So when I typed in hybrid cars, these were the best results that came up organically, and these were the results that came up because those companies have paid to be on that. So this is what, in essence, Google's page looks like, and more or less the page for Bing as well looks like this as well. Now sometimes you may not see the results, the paid results on the top. Sometimes you may not even see the paid results on the right. Most of the time you will, but depending on the search. Sometimes this paid result, instead of being on the top of the page, is at the bottom of the page. So the positions might change, but generally speaking, this is what the page would look like. Now, depending on the industry, depending on the location, the clicks on the paid searches are usually about 25 to 30%. So on average, and this will differ across industry, it will differ across locations, but on average, 25 to 30% of the time people will click on one of these paid ads. But over 70 to 75% of the clicks will happen on organic search. So I'm not necessarily suggesting, don't take from this that you should only be focused on organic search and not on paid searches. So if you are not ranking well in organic search, then you shouldn't. You should look at paid search as well, because perhaps that will get you some customers. And when I'm talking about organic search listing, if you're not on the first page, you're probably not listing very well. And frankly, even on the first page, you should be looking to get on the first 3 to 5 results, because the most of the clicks, even those 75 to 75% of the clicks, a vast majority of the clicks happens in the first 3 to 5 results. As you scroll down, most of the people stop clicking. Now, having said that, don't worry if you're not currently ranking well, because there are things that you can do that will get you ranking on the top very quickly, especially if you are a local business. If you are a local business, you are selling into the local market, it is not that difficult to start ranking very well in Google for keywords, for a variety of reasons. One of the biggest being that most of your competitors are not looking at this as a marketing channel. So most of your competitors are doing a horrible job. So if you start doing some optimization of your website, you probably have a good chance of start ranking pretty well. Now, there are many elements that goes in when you want to get ranked for Google or for other search engines. Of course, search engines will not tell you what these elements are, and also many of these elements change very frequently. Sometimes they change. I mean, Google make their changes at least a couple of times a day to their search engine. These are very, very minor changes. Twice a year, usually, they make major changes, but the changes are happening constantly. Now, while most of these elements are not known publicly, Google and Bing and Yahoo have publicly said that there are certain elements that are important. And then, of course, most of the search engine optimization experts over the years have figured out things that are important and things that are not important. You probably cannot see this slide very well. I will send this as an attachment to you by the end of the day, so you will have this, at least this particular slide, if not the rest of the slides. I'll try to get you the rest of the slides as well. What this slide shows are things that are important for on-page SEO and that they are important for off-page SEO, and I will come back to what an on-page SEO is and what an off-page SEO is. But more importantly, there are also things that you need to be aware of that will actually impact your optimization negatively if you do them. And today I'm not going to go into a lot of those things because those are advanced search engine optimization techniques. But be aware of that there are not only things that you need to do it to have a positive impact, but you also need to be aware of not to do things that will have a negative impact on you, or on your website rather. So what are some of the basic elements? The last list I have seen, there were about 132 odd elements just for Google. Not all of them are going to be important. Not all of them you will have control over. But here are some of the elements that you should look at. So keywords, as I was telling earlier with the example of my clients. Should you use the word kitchen electronics or should you use the word kitchen appliance or appliances? Keywords are the single most important element that you need to make sure that you get right. And as I said, make sure that you get in the head of your customer and understand what your customer will be typing in search engines to make your website appear to them. If you have missed this element, you pretty much have missed the boat. Of course, the quality of the content is going to be important. If the quality of your content is better than your competitors' content, you will rank better. The freshness of the content is also important. So if your content was published 6 months ago and your competitors' content was published 6 years ago, your content will rank better than theirs. Even if it's exactly the same content or more or less the same content, the freshness of how soon it was published will have an impact. Hence why you want to make sure that you are always changing your content. People talk about that you should be blogging constantly. One of the reasons they talk about is to make sure that your content is fresh. The authority of the domain. Now, for small businesses, you may or may not have any control over the authority of your domain. So for example, there are certain domains that will always have more authority than yours. Government websites, for example. Educational websites, for example. So a university website will always have more authority than a small business will. Big companies, they will have more authority, whether it's Toyota or Honda or New York Times or BBC News. They will have more authority than a small business will. Trust can be established in a variety of ways. By placing logos from authoritative domains can develop trust. So for example, if you have a logo from your local chamber or a Better Business Bureau, that will develop trust. Age of the domain will have an impact, not only the past age but also the future age. What does that mean? So if you have just registered the domain a month ago, it will have lower ranking than a domain that had been registered for 10 years. Same thing applies for the future age. If you registered a domain just for 1 year, it will have lower ranking than if you have registered a domain for next 5 years. Why that is important is because of this. If you have registered a domain recently and it's registered for 1 year, Google is going to think, well, you have not been in business that long, you don't know if you're going to be in business that long, so maybe you're not that good a website. But if you just registered a domain but you have registered it for 10 years, Google's going to say, okay, so you are betting on yourself, you are saying that you're going to be around for 10 years, so perhaps your content is going to be a little better, so I will trust you a little bit more. That's what it means from the age of the domain. Links to the domain, that means that which other websites are linking to you, and of course the quality of those links, right? If I link to you from my personal websites versus you get a link from BBC News or New York Times, that will have a much higher rank authority than a link from my website. So the quality of those links will be important. And for the last about 3 to 5 months, maybe even 6 or 7 months, social media engagement is getting very important. Not only in terms of the fact that you have a social media website, but the engagement that you have on those websites. So it's not enough to have a Facebook web presence or a Twitter presence, but also that there is engagement between you and other users on Facebook and on Twitter and on Google+. As I said, there are many, many more elements, close to 132 or some odd figure number like that I've seen last, but don't worry about most of them. The two most important elements, at least for the basic webinar that we are on today, are keywords and a link to your domain. The links, the incoming links to your domain, you need to pay attention to those. Keywords, I've already mentioned why they're important, because that's what the user is going to type in, and if that keyword does not appear on your site, then right out of the gate you're not going to be doing very well. So keyword is very, very important. Why is the link to domain and the quality of those links important to you? Because when Google is looking to present the best results to the user, Google wants to make sure that the content on your website has given some authority by other people, by independent third-party peoples, right? So if there are 100 links, 100 websites linking back to your website, then Google is going to say, right, okay, so this website is good because there are 100 other websites linking back to this website. Having said that, the quality of those 100 websites is also important, right? So if you get 100 websites linking that are all personal websites, so from your friends and families, versus one link from New York Times or BBC News, will have a bigger impact than 100 websites that have no quality. So it's not just how many other websites are linking to you, but also what is the quality of those websites that are linking to you is going to be important. And those are the two elements that we're going to talk about for the rest of the webinar. So when you are doing keyword research, let's start with that. There are a couple of ways you can find out what keywords are going to be important. The first thing you can do is to auto-suggest. You probably know this, right? When you start typing in, so for example, when I started typing in digital camera, Google suggested some of the search results for me. And these suggestions came from a variety of sources, and one of those sources is how often that terms get searched for. So there are a lot of people who are searching for keyword or key phrase rather, digital cameras review, digital cameras on sale, digital cameras for kids. So if you are selling digital cameras, those are perhaps some of the keywords you want to make sure are on your website because people are searching for them. The second area you should look at when you scroll down all the way, this doesn't happen in all cases, but in some cases it does, Google will tell you some related searches. So in this case, Nikon digital camera at Best Buys, Olympus digital cameras. So perhaps you want to introduce those keywords if they are appropriate in your search on your website as well. The one tool that I'm going to show you is what's called a keyword tool. So actually let me go to my browser and I am going to just type in Google keyword tool, and when you do that, and oh, by the way, let me actually go back. So see how when I start typing in, you get these auto suggest. This is what I'm talking about, right? So let's go back to digital camera. Right, so these are the words that I'm talking about, right? These are your auto suggest, and if I scroll all the way down here, these are the related searches that I get that Google is suggesting I should look at. Okay, so let me now go back up and go to Google keywords. Oops, keyword tool. Just gonna do that, and the first usually one that will come up is the one, and if I click on that, this will come up. Now there are two things to notice here. You can find keywords either based on a word or phrase. So we will do, for example, digital camera in a minute. So well, let's just do that. So the keyword that I'm looking for is digital camera, and I am going to, I hate these captchas. I can never understand what they are. Oh well, looks like I did it right this time. Maybe, yeah, I did. Okay, so when I typed it in, it's telling me several things to notice here, right? It's telling me what else I should be looking at for my keywords. So for example, waterproof keyword. We have Fuji keywords, Panasonic. So a lot of these things are potential keywords that I should be using for, right? On this column over here, on this column, it's giving me the global monthly search, and the monthly search is always the previous calendar month. So in this case, this is from April of 2012, and local monthly searches. The local in this case refers to the country and not local in your region. So for example, in this case, the local is United States, not a particular state or even a region within the US, but the entire country. So it's not all that local really. So it's telling me, okay, digital camera rating last month in April 2012, 12,000 people searched for that term, and in the US 8,000 people searched for that. But digital camera reviews, 300,000, over 300,000 people searched globally, in the US 164, and just for the term digital camera, 3.3 million people searched globally. So you can now get an understanding how many people are doing a search on a global way. Competition, it's telling you this is actually based if you had paid for that term to show up as a paid advertisement. However, this also very closely reflects organic competition as well. So for these things, this is saying that the competition is pretty high. If you were doing paid advertisement, you will have to pay a fairly high price for it. But also organically, that means that other people are optimizing their website for those terms. So you have to decide if you can easily compete with those people. So for example, I'm sure if you were competing for Canon digital camera, I'm sure Canon also has optimized their website for that term. How likely are you to be able to get that term? You have to decide on that, and you have to figure it out. And again, the way to figure it out is do it and then look at your analytics and see if that is having any impact or not. Now I've hidden a bit of things here, so let me actually go ahead and columns. So one of the things that you will also, well, actually, I'm not signed in. One of the things you need to notice that when you are not signed into this tool, you're going to get a limited number of features and a limited number of keywords back. So I'm actually going to sign in into my account. And now that I'm signed in, let me go back and write digital camera. So the account is free. I highly recommend that you do actually get a Google account or Google AdWords account, because you will get a lot more information if you do that. So now you would notice that I'm getting a lot more information than just my global and local. I'm getting how much people are going to pay for it. I'm also getting, I'll come back to that in just a second. Nope, that should actually be fine. One of the things you would notice is this area. So what it is telling me is, they changed it slightly since my last look at this. This is giving me the information for the last 12 months, for the last 12 calendar months. So you can see when people search for certain items. So best compact digital camera, high searches in what this likes like 4 months ago, so January, maybe February, but not so much in probably May or June. So if you are in a seasonal business, let's say you sell air conditioners or you sell heaters, right? This will tell you, or you sell travel, so you sell travel packages. So if your business is seasonal, you can see when people are searching for something. So this is a good place to start looking at it. Now I said there are two ways you can search it, right? One way was to add your word or phrase. So let me actually go back to Google and type in digital camera. And I'm doing it because I don't know if, oops, I didn't spell that right. I'm doing this because I don't sell digital cameras, so I don't know who my competitors will be. You probably know who your competitors are. I'm actually going to do a bit of a more search. Digital cameras Vancouver. And so one of my competitors is BC Camera. If I were selling digital cameras, one of my competitors would be bccamera.com, which is coming up as the first result, and then there's Carysdale Camera, which is the second result. So what I'm going to do, instead of searching for digital cameras, I'm going to search by the website, and I'm going to put in my competitor's website. And what this will tell me is the keywords that are on my competitor's website. Why do I want to do that? Obviously, when I typed in digital camera on Google, my first competitor that showed up, I want to use the same keywords, don't I? I want to make sure that I am getting higher up on the search results, and I want to compete with my competitors who are 1 through 5, or even the all 10 in the first page, but certainly 1 through 5 results. I want to check that. And if you see this, they have actually optimized their website for very specific types of cameras. So Canon 50mm, 17, 1.8 USM, whatever that means. I don't know what these things means, but you can see as I scroll down the list here, they have optimized their website for particular cameras that they sell, and perhaps that's why they are doing so well. Even though if you look at some of these things, they are in a very, very competitive environment, but yet still they are showing as number ones. And now BC Camera is not a big business, it's a local business. If you are a local business and you look at some of these strategies, you can now begin to understand how easy it might be for you to start coming up, ranking up high on search engine as well. But if you look through this thing, you will see that they have put a lot of work. There's a lot of things that they have optimized for, and I will mention that in just a second to you. But to build pages with so many keywords is a lot of work. It's tiresome work. So one of the things that people always tell you that you should do search engine optimization because it's free. Well, it's not really. Yes, you're not going to pay Google for it, but you're going to pay somebody for it. Whether that somebody happens to be you is irrelevant, because if you are doing optimization yourself, then you are not spending that time doing something else. You're not spending that time running your business. And if you're not optimizing it yourself, then you're going to hire somebody to do it. Whether you hire a consultant, or you hire somebody in-house, or you hire some high school kid to do it, all of those things are relevant and important. Perhaps you should look into that. But at the end of the day, it's not entirely free, in the sense that you will either spend time or you will hire somebody and pay them money to do that, because doing it properly does require work. It doesn't happen by itself, and it doesn't happen overnight. Okay, so keep that in mind. So I highly recommend what you do is those two things. First of all, come up with a list of keywords that you think your customers may be searching for, and then go into Google, type the keyword in Google keyword tool, type the keyword in, and figure out what are other terms around that term that you can optimize for. Secondly, look at what your competitors are doing, especially those competitors that are ranking pretty highly. Figure out what they're doing, and then go ahead and do the same thing, or optimize for the same thing. Okay, I have to move a little bit quicker, so let's get back into our presentation. So as I mentioned, there are two things. There's an on-page optimization, and then there is off-site optimization. Let me talk about the on-page optimization first, and that's the keyword placement. So now you have figured out what your keyword is going to be. What do you do with that keyword? You have done the research, either through your competitors or through your keyword tool. Where do you put those keywords in? The first page you need to put the keyword in is a page title. The second one is the page URL, and then the page content. I'll come back to that. So let me show you what those things are. So let me go to BC Camera. You will notice this up here: digital cameras, Broadway camera in Vancouver, Canada, Canon, Nikon, Pentax, Sony, Samsung, Panasonic, etc., etc. that's the title. That's the browser title. You want to make sure that your keywords are appearing there. You also want to make sure that the first keyword, Google is going to consider that to be the most important. The second one, less important, next, less important, less important. So as you go out, it will become less important from left to right. The keywords on the left are the most important. So in this case, digital is more important than cameras, and of course together that's more important than Broadway camera in Vancouver. And then they're listing a whole bunch of camera manufacturers which are lesser and lesser important. The second thing is the URL. URL meaning, so bccamera.com / everything that comes after the slash, the keywords should be in there. So let's say you were competing with BC Camera in Vancouver and you sell cameras. You can now see very quickly how you can rank better than BC Camera, because while they perhaps have gotten their title correct, they have not gotten their URL correct. What they should have said, instead of saying index.php question mark main underscore page, and what does that mean, right? Nobody searches for that. They should have said bccamera.com / digital cameras. That what should have appeared after that. So if you were competing with people like this, I mean, of course, they are number one for digital camera in Vancouver, and if you were competing with them, you now know how you can do better than them just by looking at things that they're doing wrong. And then comes content on the page. One is the headline. This is your headline. Digital cameras, they're doing this properly. They're also doing this. This is a bit of an advanced feature. I'm not going to talk about it, but let me point out in the sense that they're doing what's called a breadcrumb. So that's important. Now, when I said that they have optimized for lots of keywords, including the brand names and the brand models, this is where that's coming from, right? They have listed each of the brand names, and that's getting picked up by Google because it's in the content, right? And if I click on Canon, I bet you they're listing their models of Canon models. So there you go, right? So they're listing the Canon models right here. So PowerShot XS130, AS300, and these were the ones that were showing up when we did use the keyword research tool, right? Those are the things that are getting picked by Google, and then Google is saying, yes, the content on this website is quality content. So the keyword is good, the quality is good, and that's why they're ranking so much better than their competitors. So title is important. Make sure that you have the right title. URL is important. Make sure you have the right URL. Content, make sure you have the right headline and you have the body. Now, when you're writing the content, make sure that you are writing the content organically, not technically. It's important, right? What do I mean by that? When you're writing organically, you're writing for a human to read it. You're not writing it for a computer to read it. What many people will do is that they will stuff their content with keywords. So if a human goes in there, it will make no sense to them. It will all be just words, right? Because they think that the computer is going to read it, it will see a lot of keywords, and it will rank better. 5 years ago, that was the case. Today, that is not the case. Google has figured out that it will look at a paragraph and it will figure it out whether it's written for a human reader or for a computer. And if it thinks that it's written for a computer because you have used way too many keywords, Google will penalize you. It will actually, if you're ranking on the 10th position, it will put you on the 100th position. It will penalize you. So don't stuff your content with keywords. Write organically where it makes sense, so that it will make sense to a human reader rather than a computer. Couple of other things that you should pay attention to when you are doing it is make sure that the name of the image that you're uploading also have a keyword. So instead of just saying image2.jpg, say Canon digital camera.jpg. So make sure that there is a image name in there. Make sure that the alt tag, I should not have put it in there because some of you might get technically on that and say, okay, what's that? And it is a bit of a next step of search engine optimization, but certainly make sure that your image name is the name, has a keyword. The links that you're using to your other pages or even outside of your other pages, make sure that has the proper keyword. And then the meta tag description. A caution about meta tag description. Meta tags have absolutely no value on ranking. So if you stuff it through keywords, or even if you do it organically, it will have no value on search engine optimization whatsoever. However, where it will have a value, let me go back to Google and let's type digital cameras. Oops, didn't do it right again. Cameras. Right, where it will have a value is where meta tag comes in is right here. This is information that's coming from meta tag. If you have a meta tag, if you do not have a meta tag description, then Google will pick from your content information which it thinks is the best information. Why is this important? And again, I want to repeat this. It has no value on your SEO ranking. But why it's important is that when I'm looking at these three results, I probably will have a quick glance of what these things are saying. And if this is not very good, even though if it's in the first position, I may actually click on this one, because this may have a better description and perhaps something better for me to look at, maybe more relevant to me. So you want to make sure that your meta tag description, or rather meta description tag, is properly it's proper in the sense that, again, it's organic and that it will entice your user to click on that link rather than to leave it blank. Okay, that's where it will have an impact, not so much in terms of it will help you with your search engine ranking at all. Right. That's your on-page optimization, what you need to do on the page. This is about off-site optimization. Remember, I said there are two important things basically that you need to pay attention to. One is the keyword, second is the link building. So your off-page optimization is link building. The first thing you need to understand is link authority. Every page, as far as Google is concerned, have a page rank, which is either go all the way from 0 to 9, 0 being the lowest, 9 being the highest. There aren't a lot of websites that I have seen out there that are ranking 9, but I have seen a lot of websites that are ranking 8, and of course a ton of websites that are ranking 0. To go from 0 to 1 and then 1 to 2 is not linear, in the sense that if you do X amount of work to get your page rank from 0 to 1, then you can do the same amount of work to get from 1 to 2. That's not the case. If you do X amount of works to get from 0 to 1, you actually have to do 10x amount of work to get from 1 to 2. It's on a Richter scale. You have to do 10 times more work optimization wise to get from 1 to 2, and then you have to do 10 times more work than that to get from 2 to 3. So getting up the rank requires a lot of work. And why are there websites that are ranking 7 or 8? Those are the websites that have a lot of content. Those are the websites that have a lot of authority. Those are the websites, all of the government websites. So anything that has an extension .gov or .gov.uk if you're in the UK, or .edu, or any educational institution, any major news organization, BBC, New York Times, ABC News, what have you, all of the major news organizations, they will have rank high. Social media websites, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, they all have about 7, some have 8 rank. So those are the ones that have a high link authority, and you want to get links from them. But that doesn't mean you should ignore links from a local authority as well, and I'll come back to in just a second. Now that you understand the link authority, what are the low-hanging fruits, right? So if you go and you have a presence on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Flickr, YouTube, and places like that, Foursquare, Pinterest, right? They all have authority level of about 6, 7 rank. So the low-hanging fruit is just go in there and create your profiles and get a link and put a link back to your website. It won't have a major effect, but it will start building the effect, right? You still have a lot more work to do, but the first step is if you just go and create profiles and have a link back to your website, it will start the process of building your link. The second one is, like we did with the keyword, figure out what your competitor keywords are. Do the same thing with who is linking to your competitor, right? Go and figure out who is linking to your competitor. And one of the places I will recommend is if you go to opensiteexplorer.org. So let's just go there and let's take, what was it? BC Camera, I think it was BC Camera. Right, let's take them as a competitor and see if we can figure out who is linking to them. So if you go to opensiteexplorer.org and I'll just type in their URL, let me take HTTP off because HTTP is already here, and I will do a search and it will take its time to complete the search. There we go. So now you can see who is linking to BC Camera. They're coming from demos.org, which is, if you can get on demos.org, I highly recommend that you do. They obviously have a link back to their own website that's coming from. Then they have outdooradventureshows.ca. That's another of their own links. And the demos. They have a lot of demos links, and demos is a major search engine that you should look into that. They're coming from, again, Outdoor Adventures, Yellow Pages. That's the easy one, right? Because Yellow Pages, in many cases, does provide you with free listings. So you may want to get into that. CameraHobby.com. So figure out who else is linking back to your competitor and ask them. CTV. That's a TV station here locally in Canada, and this is in particular from BC. So from a news organization, right? That's important. Sanyo, right? That has authority because it's a major manufacturer. So as you can see, you can now identify companies that are linking or websites that are linking back to your competitors. So you need to ask them, okay, how do I get these websites to also link to me, right? That's the first thing that you start with, right? Figure out who's linking to your competitors and see if you can ask those websites to link back to you as well. The other low-hanging fruits, if you're a member of your local chamber of commerce, get them to link back to you. If they have a members directory, make sure in the members directory in your profile you have a link back to your website. Your local newspaper, radio and TV stations, right? What can you do to get them to link back to you? Now, I don't know why CTV, as I mentioned, CTV is a TV station in Vancouver. I don't know why they're linking to them, but figure it out, right? Go to that page, see why they're linking back to a BC Camera and see if you can do the same thing. Can you create a story? Can you have a press release? Can you have a public relation campaign going which will get these newspapers and TV and radio stations to link back to you? Same thing applies to your local colleges, your local universities and schools, right? What can you do to get them to link back to you? Perhaps you can do some kind of a competition. Perhaps you can undertake some kind of a research project where the university professor or local students will get involved in, and of course you will get a link from them, but you will also get some kind of a public relationship going with that, so your local media, your newspaper and radio will cover that and link back to you. And then of course if there are any charities that you support, right, make sure that you are in their donors page with a link back to your own website. So you can see if you start doing all of these things, it will start to build your link building capacity and you will start to begin to get some links from your other websites. So let me talk very briefly beyond the basics. What else can you do? If you are a local business, very important that you get on local searches for Google Map, for Bing and Yahoo Local. It will have a massive impact on you moving up that ranking and getting on the first page and then moving into the first 3 to 5 results as well. Make sure that you are getting some videos on YouTube. It doesn't have to be you on the video if you don't feel like showing your face. It doesn't even have to be your voice. It doesn't even have to be video in the concept that we think of a video. If you go on YouTube, you will notice a lot of companies have just pictures with music in the background. That will have an impact on your search engine ranking. Make sure you get into those things. Make sure you are on Google Plus with a business page, because Google Plus is of course owned by Google and they are paying some attention to that. So companies that have a Google Plus page tends to get a slight advantage on getting a better ranking on Google itself. Make sure you are on online directories. If you have a directory in your city, in your state, in your province, where have you, make sure you are on those local directories. Couple of other things that I will mention very briefly is consider the keywords in long tail research. Two reasons for that. As you saw when we did the research on BC Camera, they were listing not only the manufacturers but the models between the manufacturers, right? That's the long tail. They're not just saying digital cameras, they are talking about a specific digital camera brand and model. Why is that important? First of all, it's easier to rank better for those keywords, and more importantly, consider where people are in their research versus buy mode. When they are researching, they will start with a very generic keyword. They will talk about digital camera, but when they have narrowed down their research and they are ready to buy, they will start searching for specific terms. They're going to start searching for Nokia digital camera such and such model, right? So for example, if you're buying running shoes, you might start your search by saying running shoes, but once you have decided to buy, you may want to you will search for red Nike running shoes in Vancouver, right? That's a long tail. Not a lot of people are searching for it, but people who are searching for it, those are the people who are ready to buy that product. So you want to make sure whether you want to be showing up when people are researching, or do you want to show up when people are ready to buy? And it's usually the long tail that will get them to ready to buy. Make sure that you're getting some reviews from, especially from your social media engagement, where people are saying, hey, what a great product, hey, what a great site, hey, what a great customer service. People are giving you reviews, because then you will get both the links from either their website or from those websites, the review websites, whether they're social media or companies like Yelp, for example, or websites like Yelp, but also you will get higher ranking because of social media engagement as well. So that's pretty much it for our basic search engine optimization. Feel free to connect with us with the Small Business Center, as well as on our Facebook.